Chapter 31, Learning Her Body. I had some downtime until basketball practice at the gym, so I headed to the bookstore feeling all right, but with a whole lot of shit on my mind. "Long time," Marty Bookbinder said. "Don't I deserve a rematch?" he asked me. "A rematch is cool, but I hope you've been practicing," I joked. "All day. I got nothing better to do," he smiled. "Thursday then. I'll come by. Today, I need to do some reading." He watched me as I changed from my usual path, which was to check out the mystery books first. I turned and looked back at him, jarring him so he would mind his business. All of the adult magazines were covered up with paper, so you couldn't see the images until after you made the purchase. They were always there in the bookstore in the same adults-only section, but I never messed with them or even stopped to try and look. Now, curiosity had me open. It wasn't really the pictures I wanted. I wanted to read about females, what they want and what they like. I wanted to learn about how to make them feel good. I wanted to know when I put my finger on her panties, why did she suddenly get wet? I wanted to know why on the phone and whenever I was near her, she breathed so hard. I wanted to know why she moaned and what really triggered it to happen. I wanted to know everything about women without having a conversation about it. I knew I could just rely on my instincts about what to do. I could just deal with each situation as it came up. Yet when I looked into these females' eyes, they stared at me like I was going to give them the most extreme amount of pleasure imaginable, the highest high. Truthfully, I wanted to be able to do it right and smooth so she could feel real good. When she thought of the best earthly feeling in the world, I wanted her to think only of me. I knew that when I kissed Akemi, she started sucking on my lips and tongue. It felt so good to me that I found myself recalling the feeling and re-experiencing it when I was all alone. Her kiss alone left a deep craving in me. I wanted to be kissing her all of the time. I didn't need no magazine or book to feel and react to that. Still, I was curious about the female body, the inside, and how it worked. I wanted the upper hand, to be in control of the lovemaking even though I didn't have the experience. I left out of the adults-only section and found a human anatomy book instead. It was corny, dry, and factual. The drawings of the human body in there didn't seem real. All of the women were red, all of the men were drawn blue. It was hard for me to look at their drawings and transform them into what I saw when I looked at a real female. I read the words anyway. I discovered the clitoris, a woman's pleasure point. It was all news to me, a small spot like a button at the opening of the vagina, which a male could touch, even just lightly with a finger, to bring a female a great rush of pleasure. And what if I put my tongue on it and moved it back and forth, I thought. I read about how a female's pussy gets moist as she becomes excited, and that a female's pleasure is related to how relaxed, safe, and comfortable she feels. I read about women's nipples and how they're so highly sensitive and become erect when she is excited. I was fascinated that even a light wind could cause a nipple to plump up. I thought it was amazing of Allah to design our bodies to reveal our true desires, both of us, the females and the males. I learned about a woman's orgasm, the point where her pleasure becomes so intense and unbearable that she experiences an internal explosion and showers down fluids and feels an unbelievable release and peace. Wow. That's something I can't wait to cause to happen. I want to watch and see what her face looks like when I am there making it happen to her. I read about the difference between foreplay, touching, kissing, fingering, sucking, and actual sexual intercourse. I had to put the book down for a few to think about it all, and for other reasons. I started wondering if foreplay and sex could actually be separated. I did not think so. A kiss didn't seem casual to me. It seemed crazy, intimate, and erotic and powerful. When we kissed, she aroused me and made me feel aggressive as though I could not stop myself. And in one conversation I had with Uma, she didn't think any of this was casual either. The way Uma talked about it after the first touch and feel of a woman's body, Everything else is an avalanche. After the first touch, the momentum alone pushes and pulls and drags you to engage in and enjoy and finish. And what did the Imam Musa believe? I never read anything in the Holy Quran forbidding kissing, although I read about how it forbids sexual intercourse before marriage. So is kissing sexual and a part of sexual intercourse? Or does it fit a different category like this book says, foreplay? Could a female suck a dick and still be considered a virgin? I wondered. If I allowed a female to do me, does that mean we didn't have intercourse because I never actually went inside of her? Like Fozzie said? I read that a virgin has a hymen, a thin piece of skin over her vagina opening. The first man to go up inside of her bursts the hymen and some blood should come streaming down. I never knew that before. I just knew in the streets a busted cherry meant a girl's first time having sex. Now I knew why. My mind wandering, I wondered about Akemi. I always thought of her as a virgin like myself. I always thought of her as someone who was into me and only me. She never gave me the feeling or any evidence that would lead me to think differently, not even a glance or interest in another man. Of course she is a virgin, I assured myself. She would have to be a virgin to become my wife. My wife, that's deep. I started thinking about my life, religion, and culture. Our Sudanese females are virgins until marriage. It's considered a woman's honor. I wondered why it didn't matter to American girls. Even American men didn't seem to give a fuck if their woman was a straight-up, used-up whore. I wondered if maybe it didn't matter to anyone else except the Muslims. After a couple of hours of reading and thinking, I was only certain of one or two things. Based on what I felt under that big tree in Jersey, when the touching and sucking jumped off, I would not think about any of the shit I read this afternoon. The foreplay and the sex would all be the same thing to me. It already was. When I looked at Akemi, or any beautiful woman, it was sexual. I guessed that's why the Muslim men and women are required to turn their eyes away from one another and dressed with modesty. If I just watched Akemi moving her legs on the swing in an incredible yoga pose, walking, even just talking, it was all sexual and alluring to me. If I wanted to do things right in the required order as my family believes, I needed to get married swiftly. The only other alternative was for me to do nothing at all. I'd have to stay away from Akemi because the love would ease right into the touching. I'd have to stay away from even the females who I didn't love but whose physical presence turned me on. Once the seduction started, I noticed it was getting harder and harder for me to just turn away. Or I could just roll with it, be all in, be like an American man would be, and just start fucking without thinking. Just follow the pleasure feeling. In the book, I read about erogenous zones, other parts of a woman's body that might not be obvious, but brought her great pleasure. But I discovered that for each woman, the erogenous zone could be in a different location. The crease in her inner thigh, the inner ear, the back of the neck, the toes. I was liking reading the part on aphrodisiacs. Aphrodisiacs are things which increase and intensify the feeling to want to have sex in the first place. The natural aphrodisiacs are things like various hot sauces and certain fruits like the pomegranate or Chinese apple. Even chocolate is an aphrodisiac. I laughed to myself at how we all running around all day aroused and not even knowing we intensifying it by the items we choose to enjoy. Akemi had a pomegranate tree growing in the greenhouse in New Jersey, a whole tree dedicated to arousal. Afterwards, I found a small book, smaller than my hand. The cover and the pages inside were all covered black. The drawings were white. It was titled Positions. I opened it up. Each page showed a different sexual position, a different way to enter inside of a woman. I looked at each of the 50 pages carefully. I wondered what was the difference between these positions and the yoga positions I saw Akemi do in the park. It all involved a great amount of flexibility. I knew that Akemi's body was as flexible as a rubber band and light. As an athlete, I could lift her body easily and move it however she wanted and liked it to be moved.